What's up, everybody? This, as you can see, is the first of what I promised would be classic audio, video, or audio. Well, you get the idea. Reviews of past issues of Sonic the Hedgehog by Archie Comics, and as you can see, the issue I want to talk about today is issue 29, which ironically is 200 issues earlier than what presently we are seeing, or 201 if you consider it. And as you can see on the cover, this does also deal with the fact that Sally gets roboticized. However, Sally's robotization in this situation is only for this issue. You see, the way it starts, this issue also marked the comic book debut of Dulcy, who many knew from the second season of Sad AM. And Dulcy does play an integral part in this story. Now, basically, here's what goes down, ladies and gentlemen. Here's what goes down. Sonic and Dulcy end up, I guess, encountering and taking down a couple of SWAT bots in a stealth fighter, or a stealth ship, if you will. And they find out, I guess, through information, or they just find out by discovery, I can't really remember, that the cargo that's being carried on board there is a portable roboticizer. Well, they find this out later on, thanks to Rotor. But they find out that, you get the idea. They basically find out right then and there that the cargo that's being carried there is a portable roboticizer. Now, of course, I believe, if I remember correctly, Robotnik, finds out that that very ship was taken down, and that there's no doubt that the Freedom Fighters have the portable roboticizer, or de-roboticizer, that is, the portable de-roboticizer, I should say, and he wants it back. Now, with the de-roboticizer in the hands, the Freedom Fighters obviously have an advantage. Well, so they think. But they find out that the de-roboticizer is only good for one last de-robotization. Now, this of course gives Sally an idea. Well, actually, Bunny's the one that comes up with an idea when she suggests that maybe they could use this to their advantage by having Robotnik roboticize one of them. Now, Antoine, of course, thinks Bunny's a spy. This is when Antoine was still cowardly Antoine of Sad AM fame. Not that he's a great character now. He is. But Sally confirms with Bunny's idea that it's a great idea. But Sally then says, I'm the one that's going to allow Robotnik to roboticize. In other words, Sally comes forward and says, hey, Bunny's idea is great, but I'm the one that's going to be the one that gets roboticized. Now, you would probably think, reading this issue back then, and probably reading it now, if you haven't read it yet, you're probably thinking to yourself, why go with that kind of idea? Why be so stupid in doing that? Well, because of this reason. You see, what happens is, as they're on the outskirts of Robotropolis, Rotor places what is known as a neuro overrider into Sally's ear, basically stating that once she's roboticized, not only will it sort of integrate itself into her roboticized body, if you will, but it will allow her free will over Robotnik's control. So anyway, what happens is Sally decides to go along with the plan, telling Sonic and the others they'll be together one day, they'll be together again soon. So she basically goes on with the plan. And the plan originally is for her to do a little spying as a robot. I guess it's only for this mission or so, whatever. Do a little spying as a robot in a roboticized state. Meet up with the others at a rendezvous point and get de-roboticized. Possibly. I'm not really sure. But basically meet up with them at a rendezvous point, and then I guess go back to Knothole and have Rhoda transfer all the data that she downloaded into herself into a computer or something. I don't really know. I don't know all the ideas that were thrown out there when this issue was first made. But anyway, what happens is that she's playing her role, basically allowing herself to be captured, running away from the SWAT bots. And this is also when the SWAT bots were still colored gray and white. What happens... Now, at first, Tails is a little concerned, and so is Sonic. And, everybody's sort of rightfully concerned. But everybody kind of assures each other that's all right, she knows what she's doing. Well, even though they encourage each other and everything about that, unfortunately what happens is during her little act, if you will, in allowing herself to be captured, the Neo Overrider falls out of Sally's ears. Out of her ear. Which, upon discovery by Snively's able to explain what it is to Robotnik, upon Sally being roboticized. So basically the Neo Overrider that was supposed to help her regain her free will, not only does it fall out of her ear upon her capture, if you will, but it fails to give her free will, and thus she becomes fully roboticized and under Robotnik's control. Now basically what happens is the Freedom Fighters end up going around, kind of split up. Sonic goes one way and the Freedom Fighters go to, I guess would be the rendezvous point, to meet up with Sonic and Sally as well. Well, Sally shows up before them. After, and Tails is kind of like he's concerned, but Bunny says, don't worry, she knows what she's doing. And hey, when you see her, she may be roboticized, but she'll still be Sally underneath. Well, Sally does arrive, but unfortunately, it's not the Sally that Bunny was promising Tails. Instead, it's a roboticized Sally under Robotnik's control, as I mentioned, and she's pointing a gun at the Freedom Fighters as Sonic's arriving back up to meet up with them. And thus, because of this, Sonic is also captured. Robotnik basically gloats at the fact that Sally's now working for him, and at the same time, he crushes the device that would have helped her retain her free will, and says that by crushing that, not only does he crush that device which would have given Sally her free will, but also crushes the war against him. So anyway, Robotnik has Sally escort the Freedom Fighters into the roboticizing chamber. Now, the one thing about Sally here is Robotnik doesn't just call her Sally anymore. He calls her Bot 009 or something like that. Just calls her a bot with a number. So anyway, we cut to a scene where Dulcy shows up wondering why her friends haven't shown back up in Knothole. And as she shows up and she's flying around, she sees the light coming out of the big main oval headquarters, oval area. Well, you get the main headquarters, the main base. She notices a light coming out of there, and she looks in, and she's shocked because she's seeing a roboticized Sally about to roboticize the others at the command of Robotnik. And believe it or not, it's Dulcy that actually comes up with the idea of bringing the portable de-roboticizer with her because, as she would say, she probably figured they would need this in case their plan failed. So anyway, Robotnik's ordering Sally to roboticize them. Sonic's trying to convince her, trying to get her to break the control by saying, well, your friends don't do this. Don't do it. And Sally's saying, like, I'm ready, master. And then Sonic's, like I said, trying to help snap her out of her situation. She's like, must obey, must roboticize, must obey. Basically starts acting like the robot she's become. So anyway, just as she's about to press the button and Robotnik's getting really impatient saying, do it now. Just as she's about to press the button and she's saying one more time, must obey or must roboticize or something like that. Dulcy looks at the de-roboticizer just before she crashes into the window, into the main headquarters. Figuring they might have one shot and she's going to have one shot at it. Uses the de-roboticizer just as Sally's about to press the button to roboticize the others. And thus, by using the portable de-roboticizer at that same time, Sally is de-roboticized. And then Robotnik tries to roboticize him after Snively notices and tells him that she's back to normal. But unfortunately, Robotnik's not able to do that thanks to Dulcy burning with a fire breath, burning down the controllers, burning his pants, if you will. Burning his pants, if you will. This is basically also at a time where Robotnik was sort of like what you saw in the second season. Anyway, in the second season of Sad AM, that is. Anyway, Dulcy's doing this. Sally back to her normal state's telling her, "Cool, good job, Dulcy. Keep them at bay while I free the others." So anyway, the comic ends with Sally basically telling everybody that, kind of in a disappointed tone that, "Hey, I'm sorry I failed, guys. I'm sorry I couldn't get the job done the way we wanted on it and everything." And, and Sonic's like, "It's okay, Sal. You did your best." And then Dulce, I guess, for one final laugh to close the story out on, says, "Besides, it's Robotnik that didn't get the job done, and that's why I fired him." Now, I can't remember what the backstory is, but maybe some of you can. But overall, issue 29, I thought was a very good issue. It kind of you definitely felt the Sat AM aspect and element in there. You kind of had that feeling of you weren't reading an issue, but you were watching an episode of Sat AM. That's what it felt like. And yes, again, like I said, this issue, and yes, as many people may know, and if you don't know, this was indeed the first issue that Sally was roboticized in. And it's kind of ironic that 200 issues later, she'd end up in that state again, which is kind of crazy. Now, this, of course, was only for this issue and for this story. We don't know how long this situation with her in the roboticized state is going to last right now, but this was only for one issue. And Ken Penders, despite how you feel about him, I think, like I said before, brought in and definitely wrote in a great feel of, definitely gave this issue that great Satayam feel, and it was just a great story. It was just a fun story to read, very interesting, and it kind of gives you an idea that the freedom fighters, or whoever's in charge of tech support, can come up with something that allows a Mobian who gets roboticized the chance or the ability to keep the free will, even though it failed in this issue. Overall, like I said, it was a fun issue to read. I liked the fact it was also the comic book introduction of Dulcy, and they gave a little bit more background on her at the beginning. So, like I said, really, really good, really fun issue, really good. So I'll give it a 9 out of 10. Because it's one of the best issues I read, and most importantly, it was an issue that my mom bought me back when it came out, and I was still in high school, and she was visiting me when I was in Kansas. So, yeah, it's a very good issue, and if you haven't checked it out, you should try to go on milehighcomics.com and get it. Go on eBay if you can and get it, or buy the archives that center around these issues, and you'll definitely get a kick out of it as well. But it does kind of give you an idea that, I guess in a way, if you think about it, it kind of gave you an idea of what could come, and maybe it was, I don't know, maybe it was a prelude, a prophecy of what would have of what has happened, but maybe not. I don't know. But overall, very, very fun issue to read. Definitely has the Satayam feel to it, and that's all I'm going to say. And I hope you enjoyed this first of many classic audio video reviews. I'll probably make them classic audio reviews instead, because it makes it easier just to look at the cover instead of digging out all the comics that I have, or digging through all the comics I have. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, and there will be many more to come. And again, one last thing to let you know, the reason I'm doing this is because I'm not doing any audio video reviews of the current issues until this whole situation with Sally is over, or at least kind of subdued, subtitled to a point that everybody can enjoy it. It's not because I'm angry at what Ian has done to her, but that's, because I'm in the middle of it, but it's just the way I am right now. It's my decision, so I hope you respect it. Again, hope you enjoyed this review. Comment down below if you like, and I'll talk to you all later.